Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jake Stu.
And today we're talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. Released in 2024, directed by Sean Levy, and written by Ryan Reynolds, Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, Zeb Wells, and Sean Levy. And starring Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, Emma Corrin, Matthew McFadyen? No, don't know how to say his name. Morena Baccarin, Rob Delaney, and a whole bunch of other people that if you haven't seen the movie yet, why are you listening to this? We're going to ruin all of these cameos and surprise appearances. So perhaps stop if you haven't seen the movie yet.
Yeah. Really quick, let's talk about some really big news.
Right. Okay.
As of right now, it's a day old.
Right.
So by the time you hear this episode, it'll be a week and a day old, or like a week old. Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con, they announced that Robert Downey Jr. will be playing Dr. Doom in Avengers Doomsday, directed by the Russo brothers. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
I think it's pretty cool. I've seen people online both love it and both kind of hate it. I like that the Russo brothers are back. They did obviously an excellent job with the last two Avengers movies and Captain America Civil War and Captain America Winter Soldier. So I have no doubt that they will be great at doing the next two Avengers movies. I love that that Dr. Doom is going to be the bad guy for it. I think that's awesome. It was obviously originally going to be Kang. Jonathan Majors got in some hot water. They had to pivot, and now we're doing Dr. Doom. I'm curious how it'll all play with the new Fantastic Four movie. As far as I know, Dr. Doom is not in the new Fantastic Four movie. But to see, I sent you a text when I heard the news, and I was like, I would have never guessed this in a million years. You know, if you had said, "Hey, guess who's playing Dr. Doom?" Robert Downey Jr. would not have not even come into my brain. I think it's really interesting. I'm curious if he's going to stay behind the mask the whole time and it's just Robert Downey Jr. playing him, or if there's going to be a Tony Stark connection to it and people are going to think he's Tony Stark or something like that. I saw something online today that apparently there is a comic where there's a Doom from another universe who is Tony Stark. They never actually kind of call him Dr. Doom, but he's got the mask on. He's Tony Stark. His eyes were burned by Johnny Storm. So it's, I don't think they're going to go that route, but it'd be interesting. I'm curious if they just chose him because, you know, Robert Downey Jr. for a long time was like the face of the Marvel universe, and he's a great actor, and why not have him now play a villain, you know? Or if there's an interesting Tony Stark connection. I don't know, but what are your thoughts?
I was driving home yesterday from a sneaker ball, and my family in the back, and I got a notification in Slack in my writers group chat that said, "WTF, our DJ is Doom." I was like, no. So I went on Instagram. Don't do this. I was driving, but I went on Instagram, and lo and behold, as soon as I opened it up, Robert Downey Jr. standing there, arms open like in first Iron Man, green suit, is Dr. Doom. I said, get the out of here. And I talked about it with Alex, and he and I were, we discussed our thoughts, and I got online and I saw people loving it, people hating it. And what I'm about to say is more to the people hating it. There's some of you that are hypocrites, because everybody clamored for Jason Momoa to be Lobo, even while he was still Aquaman.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, you don't like that Robert Downey Jr. is playing Dr. Doom? That is absolutely ridiculous. It further confirms that comic book fans don't know what they really want.
Right.
it further confirms that for almost every comic book casting, especially of like the main hero, especially Batman, especially Joker, that we all, even Robert Downey Jr. himself, when he became Iron Man, people have hated the casting. Please shut up and let the movie come out first. How many times do you want to be proven wrong?
Right.
Y'all can miss me with the fake outrage, man. Like this really grinds my gears that nerds, comic book fans, whatever whatever you want to call us, that we are so binary and so in the moment and can't for 1 second get out of our nerd minds and look at the big picture. Is it an act of desperation on Disney's part, on Kevin Feige's part? Absolutely. that is unequivocally true. Is Robert Downey Jr. likely going to kill the role? Absolutely. I think two things can be true. Sometimes the desperate choice is the right choice. And I think that's the case in this situation. So all that fake outrage, y'all can miss me with that. Yeah, just let the movie come out first, and then we can share our opinions on it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it could be, it very well could be or is a desperate move on Disney's part. I also just think it's a cool choice. That there's a part of me that hopes that there's not a Tony Stark connection and that they just cast Robert Downey Jr. because they thought, who could play this really well? Robert Downey Jr. And they cast him, So I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. But I think it's great. I'm on board for it. I don't think, I also think if you're getting outraged over a comic book movie casting choice, especially, then there's a lot worse things to be upset about. So. I
agree. I saw somebody say that even if the movie is great, you cannot make me like the casting choice that they did for Dr. Doom. And I'm like, that's such a terrible way to think of things.
Right.
Like, bro, just watch the movie. If you like it, you like it. Like at the end of the day, the character is bigger than the actor. If they get an actor who can play the role, so be it.
Yeah.
Even I had to get over it myself with Jason Momoa, because I was saying, because I was in the camp that I didn't like the idea of Jason Momoa playing Lobo in the DCU, but that was when it was in a state of flux, and we didn't know if the DCU was going to carry on in the DCEU. So that was, I didn't know if that was going to take place in the same universe. I definitely wouldn't have liked it if he was Lobo and Aquaman in the same universe. But yeah, like I said, all this fake outrage, man. Just let's just watch the movie, man.
I agree. I think the one reason why I wasn't a huge fan of the idea of Jason Momoa being Lobo is just because the way he plays Aquaman, it feels like those two characters would just be too similar.
I agree.
We would just be seeing the same thing from Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
And so that was my main thing. Like, and if Robert Downey Jr. plays Victor Von Doom like he played Tony Stark, that I don't know how I'd feel about that. I hope he plays Doom differently, but
the way I'm thinking, I immediately thought of Oppenheimer. If he plays Doom,
right,
the way he acted in Oppenheimer, especially like towards the end when all that dirty stuff was revealed about his character, and like the way he was, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but he seemed very once we learned the kind of person he really was, Robert Downey Jr. had this evil look in his eye, that really came to the forefront, and I think if he plays Doom like that, I'm sold.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Oh, well, one last thing before we move on. How do you feel about DC going back to their old logo?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Me too.
I love it.
They had that logo for 30 years and 30 plus years, maybe.
Yeah, since like 76.
Yeah, they changed it around 2005. And I kind of like the 2005 logo. Mainly, maybe it's because that's around that's when Superman Returns came out in 2006. So I remember seeing that logo in front of that movie and everything.
Yeah.
But nothing beats the classic logo that they went back to. And so I love it. Can't wait to start seeing that on comics again and everything.
I really hope that it is that the hero is specific to the movie that we are seeing, and it's not just Superman all the time.
Yeah. I kind of think it's going to, I don't know. I could see them changing it, but I was going to say, I kind of think it's going to be Superman all the time, because that picture of Superman was actually the very first DC logo.
Mm-hmm.
I saw like a history of DC logos, and that a picture of Superman breaking the chains was like one of the very first DC logos.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it would be smart / cool to have be a classic version of whatever character whatever movie you're seeing. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Because I wish Marvel would kind of return to that. Because they did that with Fantastic Four. They did it with X-Men The Last Stand. And they did it
back when it used to be like the comic pages flipping.
Yeah. They did it with Hulk too.
Right.
The Eric Bana Hulk.
Yeah. So I think it's cool. I'm excited about it. All right, well, let's get into Deadpool and Wolverine. Hugh Jackman famously said he was done playing Wolverine after Logan, and yet here he is. Apparently he said it just kind of hit him, and it felt right that Deadpool and Wolverine needed to be in a movie together. Ever since he saw the first Deadpool, he was like, these two characters need to be together. Yeah. Called Ryan Reynolds, told him what he was thinking. Ryan Reynolds, of course, was like, yes. And here we are. So your initial thoughts after seeing Deadpool and Wolverine?
My initial thoughts was that was exactly the movie that I hoped it would be. I had shared my score, my rating with my friends, and one of them was surprised that I gave it such a high rating. And I said, because he said, I know you're so picky about humor. I was like, it's not that I'm picky about humor. It's that when I go to the theater, I want the movie that is being marketed to me. That was my issue with Multiverse of Madness. They marketed me movie A, and then movie B played in the theater. That left a sour taste in my mouth. That doesn't mean that the movie is bad. I still like the movie. I've still watched it more than once, but I would have preferred the movie that they sold me. Deadpool and Wolverine sold me exactly what I wanted. What they teased in the trailer is exactly what the movie gave me, and I'm 100% satisfied. It was a thrill ride through and through. It's not a perfect movie, but it was everything that it needed to be. It, in my opinion, so far, it is one of the best multiverse movies. Tyler described it as X-Men No Way Home. I was like, that is perfect.
Right, yeah, I agree. I think it is. I told my wife when we walked out that was what I wanted Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness to be. But for me, I really liked it. I didn't love it. I was really wanting to love it. And when I walked out, I couldn't figure out why I didn't love it. And I still don't really know. I think some of the humor didn't work. Or it wasn't that the humor didn't work. It was some of those jokes just got, like, they just stayed on those jokes. Some of the jokes were just really stretched out, in my opinion.
Normally, that would have bothered me.
Yeah.
But because it's a Deadpool movie, right, and they do that in all three movies, yeah, I'm used to it by now.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I felt it more this time, I guess. I don't know. I loved Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman was amazing. I really liked Wolverine's arc, or this Wolverine's arc, which is something I guess we should talk about. Yes. So the way the movie starts is it actually opens on Logan's grave from Logan. And I forget the line exactly, but Deadpool says something like, I know what you're thinking. Like, how are we going to treat this, Logan's death? And he was like, badly. Or so, he says something like, and he starts digging up the grave. And you don't really know why he's doing it at first, but that Logan is actually dead.
Yeah.
And then TVA agents show up and he starts killing them all with Wolverine or with Logan's adamantium skeleton, which I thought was pretty great. Set to the tune of Bye 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 by NSYNC.
That is one of the greatest openings in a Marvel movie. Me and my wife went to see this movie in 3D.
Oh, interesting.
That opening is some of the best 3D I've ever seen.
Oh, wow.
If you haven't seen this movie yet, I assume you have because you're listening to this episode. Right. But if you haven't seen this movie yet, or you plan on going to see it again, if you have the chance, go see it in 3D, because that opening is it is what 3D should be used for. It's because a lot of times 3D is used more for depth perception, to just increase the depth perception, and you don't really get the full effect of things coming at you. Like, things were like flying off the screen. People's limbs and stuff was flying off the screen. So please, if you get a chance, go catch a 3D matinee, because I know 3D tickets are expensive, but go catch a 3D matinee and have some 3D fun, because that's some of the best usage of 3D that I've ever seen in the history of 3D.
Wow, nice. To be honest with you, I didn't even know movies still got released in 3D.
Oh yeah.
And so I did not see it in 3D, but it was still good, even in not in 3D. That opening sequence is great. My only beef with the opening credits is there are shots of Deadpool doing the NSYNC dance.
Yes. And
those shots feel like they were done after the fact. They feel like they were, and I don't know if maybe you could notice it as much in 3D as I did in 2D, but it looked like either Ryan Reynolds in a Deadpool costume or somebody else doing the dance on a green screen, and they superimposed the background, because the background did not quite match the surroundings when Deadpool's actually killing the guys. It looked different to me.
Well, yeah, I thought that I noticed that, but I thought that was the point.
Or maybe it was. It just was somewhat jarring to me. So I thought it felt like it was it would be weird, because they were doing, I mean, he like slaps a guy to the beat of the NSYNC song. So obviously they had that idea, like it was probably even in the script, that he kills him to Bye Bye Bye. But it felt like the dancing part was an afterthought. That's what it felt like to me.
I thought because I thought of it like a music video. You know how once you get to a certain part in the music, like towards the end, the big finale, and they cut between the big dance number and then the solo shots. Yeah. I thought that's what that was. I thought it was meant to be separate.
Gotcha. Well, maybe it was. So then we kind of flash back, and this was an interesting scene, because this was Earth 616, and it's Wade interviewing for a position with the Avengers. Yeah. But Deadpool, the Wade that we are familiar with, is not from Earth 616.
Correct.
So was that just a different Wade?
No.
And so that was Wade. He had traveled to Earth 616?
Yes.
They don't explain that one?
The end of Deadpool 2 when he's universe hopping? Uh-huh. That's what that was. They like, it was in the movie, in Deadpool 2 it was a gag. Right. In this movie they made it canon. He actually went back and did all of those things, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna, he had that talk with Vanessa. He's like, you got to do something with your life. Right. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna hop in Earth 616 and become an Avenger.
How does he go to Earth 616 though if he's just got a time machine?
I don't know.
I mean, in a way, he is jumping worlds, because he kills. I mean, unless there's a Green Lantern movie starring Ryan Reynolds in his universe. Yeah, because he does go and kill Ryan Reynolds. But I was curious about that, because then after the interview, it says Earth 10,000 whatever, and that's the Earth that Deadpool lives on. Yeah, and so I was like, wait, was that just a different Wade, and we just saw like a different universe? But obviously it went into, he was all depressed about it and not wanting to be Deadpool anymore. So I figured it was the same guy, but I didn't quite get that. But maybe I just missed the whole time travel. I mean, I remember them showing the clips of using the time machine. I just didn't know how he world hopped.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't question it. It's Deadpool.
Right, yeah. I mean, he breaks the fourth wall and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. One thing that does bother me is the designation of the MCU.
So in the MCU, they have designated it Earth 616, but in other Earths other Earths, or like if you read about the MCU in a book, or even in Across the Spider-Verse, they refer to the MCU as Earth 1999.
Right.
So which one is it? Is it 616 or 1999?
Right. I don't know. It's a good question.
That really grinds my gears. I wish they would just pick one and stick with it.
Right. I agree. So anyway, then Wade is working at a car dealership with Peter and just kind of depressed. Vanessa's left him and he feels like he has no purpose really anymore. And then that's when the TVA shows up. The TVA being from Loki. I worried about my wife coming to see this movie because she had not watched Loki season 1 at least, and I still have not finished Loki season 2 because I can't finish anything. But I was worried these TVA agents would show up, or Paradox, and she'd be like, "What is going on?" But thankfully, they did a pretty good job of explaining it for people who maybe haven't watched the TV shows.
Yeah, all they really did was explain what the TVA is. That's all you really need to do,
right?
Because there is a connection to the events of season 1,
right?
But it's very loose because of a nihilist. But that's really it.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
Yeah, you don't. You don't have to watch every episode of Loki season 1 and season 2 to understand what's going on in this movie.
Deadpool even makes a joke, I think, when they mention what is his name? Eliath? Is that what it is? Like Goliath without the G?
Yeah.
And he was like, Loki season 1, episode 5 or something like that. You know? I thought that was pretty good.
One thing that does bother me is the fact that Vanessa left him.
Yeah.
That irked me. I'm like, this man has basically died for you twice and you leave him.
Because she basically, I mean, like, her argument too is kind of, I know Cassandra Nova was messing with his head, but her argument was basically like, you don't do anything for anybody except for yourself. Like, you need to prove to me that you can do stuff for other people. And that's exactly what I thought. I was like, he's done a lot.
The whole, all of Deadpool 1 was for you.
Right. And then Deadpool 2, he's trying to save the kid so that Cable doesn't kill this kid. And he did. And then he even has like a moment of sacrifice at the end of Deadpool 2, which convinces Cable to go back in time and help him. So it was just like, I didn't understand that argument at all. It was that does kind of bother me too.
Yeah.
They could have been fighting about almost anything else, but to make it that seemed just kind of wrong.
It honestly made me not like Vanessa.
Yeah.
I was like, if this is really canon, that's messed up.
Yeah. So while Wade's at the TVA, they find out that his universe is going to end. Because somebody in his universe has died, which he called an anchor being.
The anchor being, yeah.
Yeah, and when an anchor being is gone, the universe kind of just falls apart, basically. So he offers Deadpool a chance to basically move to a different universe and be important elsewhere while his universe kind of dies off. And they find out, and at first he thinks it's him. He's like, well, if I'm the anchor being, I'll just go back. And Paradox finds that hilarious.
It's like, you are definitely not the anchor being.
And we find out that it was actually Logan.
Yes.
And then that's when we cut back to the opening credit scene, we find him digging up Logan because he's like, this guy regenerates. He's not going to be dead, but he is. He's actually dead. So then, cutting past a couple things here, he steals a universe hopping device from the TVA and goes to find a Wolverine that can help him save his universe. What did you think about this montage of all the different Wolverines?
I loved it. It was, it was a treat for all the like super comic book nerds, because you saw all these different Wolverines. I loved seeing Wolverine in the brown and yellow costume.
Yes, that was awesome. Yeah.
Oh, it was so brief, but it looked so good. That is my personal favorite costume. I know everybody loves
the blue and yellow. Yeah.
The blue and yellow. I personally love the brown and yellow. That like if I were to use a costume, it would be that one. It still looks very comic booky, but it's way more grounded. Than the blue and yellow. I love that scene. We saw the 5'3",
the short Wolverine.
Wolverine, which was actually Hugh Jackman, and just shrunk down. He's like, look at you, aren't you comic book accurate? I thought that was cool.
I recognize the imagery. I recognize the Wolverine on the X being crucified.
Yeah,
in the field or whatever. I don't know what that's from, but I've seen that imagery before.
Yeah.
The one I didn't recognize was the one that only had one hand, who was kind of almost looked like he was in the future. I don't know if that was from, I don't think it's from Days of Future Past. It's because he had obviously got a hand cut off and then he had the other hand and he was beating up Deadpool with it. But I wasn't sure what that one, I didn't recognize that one. I
recognized all of them. I just couldn't pinpoint exactly what arc they were from, what story they were from.
I'll have to look that one up. And then, of course, we had, and this was rumored. So there were a few cameos in this movie that were rumored. So they ended up not being all that big of a surprise. And this was one of them.
Some of them I forgot about.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Some of them I did not know about, and they were genuine surprises, and we'll get there. But this one I expected. As soon as this montage started, I thought he was going to be in there. And he was. And it was Henry Cavill as Wolverine. Which is in the credits, he's listed as Cavaline or whatever. Yeah,
yeah. I saw because they showed him twice. They showed him from the back, and I saw his arm, and I'm like, yo, he's jacked. Is that? Because I was like, is that CGI? Did they pump him up to make him look like a different dude? And then when they went back and he turned around, I was like, oh, and I forgot that was rumored a long time ago. When they first announced Deadpool and Wolverine, that was a rumor, and I hadn't heard anything since. So that's one of the ones that I forgot about. And there's another one. No, that's the only one that I forgot about. And then there was one that genuinely surprised me. There are two that genuinely surprised me.
Yeah. I liked it, but I don't think he's so big. I didn't love how he looked as Wolverine. I was like, I know this was a big fan casting choice. As soon as X-Men became part of Marvel, I think people were like, get Henry Cavill to play Wolverine. And now that I've seen it, I'm like, I'm kind of glad they're not going to go that route. At least as far as I know, they're not going to go. But
he also, it was also kind of cartoony because his hair was really exaggerated.
Right.
He was uber Wolverine.
Right.
And he did the Mission Impossible thing with when he ripped out his claws.
Nice.
I thought that was cool. Yeah, but I loved that montage. It was great.
Yeah. So the Wolverine that we end up getting is, obviously the last Wolverine we see, and he is basically a drunk. And when he brings him to the TVA, Paradox basically laughs at Deadpool and says, "You picked the worst Wolverine. This is the out of all the universes, this is the worst Wolverine."
Yeah.
And we don't know why, and that obviously is played out later. But but we do get him in the yellow and blue costume
for the whole movie.
Yeah.
I like the yellow and blue costume. I don't love it. And I know people were losing their minds. I know, people was cheering and crying. And I get it. Personally, for me, it's just too much yellow. As the movie went on, it got less distracting. But it's just, for my personal taste, it's just too much.
I like it. I like it more once the sleeves get ripped off.
Yeah.
I think that looked better to me, where he had the exposed arms.
I liked the sleeves better because, and we discussed this in an earlier episode, because when he rips the sleeves off, the shoulder armor comes off, and it doesn't look quite right without the shoulder armor.
Gotcha. But yeah, I never minded it. I remember when the very first image came out, you said it looked like cosplay to you, and I get that, but I never had an issue with it. I think it looked pretty good in the movie. So
yeah, it took some getting used to. That's all, because like I said, it was just so yellow. Right.
And long story short, basically what happens is they both get zapped by the TVA and sent to the
void.
The void. Now, as a concept, I love the idea of the void. Yeah. I think part of the reason, and I didn't know what to expect with this movie because I tried to avoid the trailers. The only trailer I watched before seeing the movie was the very first teaser trailer, where Wolverine really wasn't even shown. It was actually right after this, what I'm talking about, when they end up in the void. Deadpool's laying on his back and you see the shadow of Wolverine. And he was like, "Don't just stand there, you ape, help me up." And then Wolverine brings his claws out and he goes, "Nope, never mind, I'm good." And that was pretty much it. So based on set photos, I knew the 20th Century Fox logo was there in the void.
Yeah.
But I think part of me at one point, I kind of asked myself, I told myself while I was watching, I was like, I did not expect like the entire movie to be in the void. And so that kind of threw me a little bit. And I guess I don't really have a problem with it, but for whatever reason, when I was watching it, I was just like, I didn't realize the whole movie, I guess the plot of the movie basically at that point gets trying to get out of the void. Yeah. So then they can save the universe. But anyway, I love the concept of the void and how like they've sent characters there to die that are no longer useful or whatever. And the 20th Century Fox logo is kind of in the dirt. I tried to find some other, I assume there's a bunch of Easter eggs in there. Like, I think you actually see like a helicarrier, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, you see a helicarrier, you see the 20th Century Fox logo. There was something else. Oh, when the other beings in the void show up, they're driving the Fantastic Car.
Yeah, I saw that. I did notice that. Yeah, I thought that was cool. So there's this mysterious stranger. Now, how quickly did you figure out who this was?
Who it really was?
Or who the actor was, even? I mean, because
fairly quickly.
Yeah, I recognized his voice like right away.
Yeah, I recognized his voice right away, but the actual reveal threw me off. I did not expect that at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So as soon as I realized it was Chris Evans, I was like, okay. And you see glimpses of his sleeve when he's still got the hood on and they haven't revealed who it is yet. Yeah. And it was all blue. And I thought to myself, he's not Cap. He's Johnny Storm. Yeah. And so when he like reveals who it is, the whole theater went nuts over Chris Evans. That was a cameo that I didn't realize was in the movie.
Right.
And then he's about to say something. Deadpool's like, "Oh, he's about to say it. Avengers." And he goes, "Flame on." And I kind of saw that coming because because you could kind of see the costume underneath.
I guess I wasn't paying that much close attention. Right. When he said flame on, the theater went bananas. Because nobody expected that. Because normally you can hear like whispers in the crowd, like, "Oh, he's gonna be this, he's gonna be that." I didn't hear any of that. Nobody expected that.
That's funny. And that was cool. I loved seeing, him back as Johnny Storm. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And this movie was almost a love letter to the 20th Century Fox superhero films that we've gotten before.
I am so glad. Okay, now I thought we was gonna wait till the end to talk about that, but since we here,
Sure.
I am so happy that that's what this movie was. I'm like, this. No Way Home did the same thing for the other iterations of Sony Spider-Man characters, and I'm so glad that it wasn't just a cameo fest. This movie was absolutely a celebration of 20th Century Fox, their Marvel universe.
Right.
And I didn't cry or get misty-eyed or anything like that, but I did get a little emotional. I was like, this is what a multiverse movie should be. It shouldn't just be a cameo fest.
Right.
And just inserting characters and just throwing them all away in one scene. Like
right.
the cameos that happened later in there, Johnny Storm was a little bit of a throwaway, but the cameos that happened later on in the movie, they are pivotal to the plot. And Deadpool and Wolverine cannot carry out their task without them. They like right. I loved how they paid respect to the characters for the most part. Obviously, it's a Deadpool movie. They're gonna throw in some jokes and insults right. here and there, but I was so glad that they actually paid respect to not only the characters but the entirety of 20th Century Fox for the most part. There is one movie that they didn't mention when they had that little dedication at the end during the credits. There's one movie that was missing that I thought was kind of funny, but again, I was very glad that it was that they handled the Fox universe the way that they did.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The characters that show up, which we could get into, because once they get to the Void, Deadpool and Wolverine fight, and then that's when Johnny Storm shows up, Sabretooth shows up, gets killed right away. Pyro shows up, a couple others.
And why would Johnny Storm shoot fire at Pyro?
That's right. I don't know.
What was going through his head in that moment?
I actually thought once that happened and Johnny fell out of the sky, I thought he died right then. So I was surprised.
It was the way
alive.
he fell. He fell like on his head.
Yeah.
And his body kind of was like putty.
You're right. It was a little cartoony, but I just assumed that was him dying. And then he was fine. And then he's like riding in the car or whatever to Cassandra Nova's place. But but that's where we're introduced to Cassandra Nova. And there's other 20th Century Fox characters. Juggernaut is there. Unfortunately, not played by Vinnie Jones. I looked it up. They did apparently offer it to Vinnie Jones, and he turned it down because he said getting into that suit and costume was a pain, and he just didn't want to do it again. So understandable, I guess. The guy that originally played Azazel is not Azazel, which that one didn't surprise me because he didn't have any lines. He just was there and kind of teleports away and stuff.
Yeah.
Lady Deathstrike's in the background, and I honestly couldn't tell if it was played by Kelly Hu from X-Men 2 or not, because they never really showed her up close or anything.
Yeah, Psylocke is in the movie, but it's not.
It's not Olivia Munn. Yeah, and Toad was there, and I couldn't tell if that was Ray Park or not either. But anyway, Cassandra Nova is our bad guy. One of the, because I guess Paradox is the other bad guy, but Cassandra Nova is one of our antagonists, and she is Charles Xavier's twin, who was killed in the womb, but I guess was then sent to the Void or something at that point or something. I looked up Cassandra Nova and on her origin, and she was basically born on the astral plane and then used her kind of psychic abilities to kind of create her body. So I assume it was something similar to that. And she kills Johnny Storm. And
she ripped his skin off.
Right. And then she's going to feed Deadpool and Wolverine to Eliath or whatever, but they get away and they fight again. And after they fight again, that's when they're taken to this hideout. Yeah. And that's when we see, and this was two out of the 4 cameos here, if you want to call them cameos, I guess characters, I should say, I knew about, because one was a rumor. Me too. The other one had been revealed in the last trailer, which I didn't watch, but just with the internet nowadays, they put that stuff in headlines or, you know, like I'll be scrolling Reddit or a movie website or whatever, and it just says it. So I'm like, great.
Well, I mean, it's in the trailer, so they assume that you've seen the trailer.
You're going to watch the trailer, right?
Yeah, right. So
it's annoying. But anyway, so Daphne Keane, and I read that the reason Daphne Keane was in the trailer is because she wanted to go to the premiere. And I guess they couldn't bring her to the premiere. You know, so they decided to go ahead and just put her in the trailer so everybody knew she was in the movie so she could go to the premiere.
Wow. That's funny.
Which I thought was really nice of Marvel to do that.
That is nice.
So Daphne Keane, who played X-23 in Logan, she's in the movie. But before we see her, the first one we see is Elektra, Jennifer Garner.
Yes.
And that one had been rumored, so I was expecting her. So when she walked in, I was like, okay, cool, here's Elektra.
That was basically pretty much confirmed, because when she was asked about it, she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Whenever someone says that, that is a confirmation that they're in the movie. So
right. It's tough for actors because they can't. I mean, I guess they could lie.
Sometimes they straight up lie. Like Andrew Garfield straight up lied. He's like, no, that wasn't me. That was CGI. That was Photoshop.
Yeah, and his lie should have been better. He should have said that was a deleted scene from Amazing Spider-Man 2 or something, because it was the same costume. I feel like it would have been maybe believable, even though he looks a little older. But he was like, no, I've seen that. It's CGI or Photoshop or whatever he said it was. And everybody was like, no,
you're in the movie.
But anyway, so Jennifer Garner shows up as Elektra. And then the next two cameos, I had no idea were going to be in the movie. So when Wesley Snipes walked out as Blade, I was like, oh,
yeah.
And this one I think is probably my favorite in the movie, even though he's the biggest
surprise.
Yeah, he was definitely the biggest surprise. And it's a similar cameo, in my opinion, as the Nicolas Cage Superman cameo. I realize, so we've already recorded our episode on The Flash. It's going to come out after this. But we've talked about I guess I should have led that with a spoiler alert if you haven't seen The Flash, huh?
The movie's been out for a year.
Well, anyway, and everybody, it's all online too. You've seen Nicolas Cage. The Nicolas Cage Superman thing in The Flash is kind of similar because these are characters where the movies never got made.
Yeah.
And so I was curious if there's people in the audience going, wait, what? You know? But anyway, Channing Tatum walks out as Gambit. And
when I saw the card, I looked at my wife. I was like, it's going to be Channing Tatum. And lo and behold, he walks out and he looks fantastic. The only thing I didn't like is that his hair was really perfect. If it had been a little bit more messy, it would have been a 10 out of 10, but I got to give it a 9.5 because his hair is too perfect. But he looked fantastic, and he actually killed the role.
Yeah.
His accent, his Louisiana accent was great. Like he really turned it up and made it really thick. Yeah.
Borderline goofy at times, but it worked for the movie.
Yeah.
I agree. His hair was too perfect, and it was so dark when you first see him that you almost can't see his hair.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of looked a little weird. But yeah, I agree. He looked great. And when I first saw the card, I just didn't even think about Channing Tatum. I thought it was going to be Taylor Kitsch or whatever his name is from X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, cool, they're bringing him back. And then Channing Tatum walked up and I was like, oh, that is so much better. And I love the jokes about his movie never happening too, where like, you know, they talk about being in the void and they were like, we've been here for blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I don't know. I might have been born here. And it was like,
yeah. And he was saying, they were all talking about, our worlds have forgotten about us. He's like, mine didn't even know I existed.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was pretty good. But so those characters showing up is awesome. But I agree with you that them being vital to Deadpool and Wolverine getting out of the void and stuff, like them having them be a part of the battle and all that, I thought was really, really great. Yeah. It wasn't just they showed up in costume for a day, wink at the camera, then leave, you know?
Yeah. Multiverse of Madness.
Right. And getting to see Gambit fighting and stuff, I thought was really quite cool.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I love the little joke, too. Deadpool doesn't even say anything. And with the mask on, he still gives a very knowing look to the camera. But when Blade was like, "There's only one Blade," he was like,
he's like,
I thought that was great.
yeah, because what led into that joke was the big gun that Blade has, and he was like, "Where'd you get that from?" "Oh, it was Punisher's." He was like, "Which one?"
Yeah, which Punisher?
I'm gonna assume it was Thomas Jane.
Yeah, probably. There's also a good Daredevil joke. Something about Daredevil, and Jennifer Connor's like, "I'm all right."
I'm all right.
And then, so the whole plan is they got to get Juggernaut's helmet onto Cassandra Cain to stop her powers.
Mm-hmm.
And then that works, but then also kind of goes awry. But she actually lets them leave. She uses a Doctor Strange sling ring, and they're actually able to get out of the void.
Now that was interesting because Cassandra Nova, I like Cassandra Nova. I like the way she is. What's the actor's name? Emma
Corrin or something like that?
Corrin. Yeah, I like the way Emma Corrin plays Cassandra Nova. She was very reminiscent of Cate Blanchett as Hela.
Right.
She kind of reminded me of that, but like all the best things about that. Like I loved how she played her. That being said, she was 2-dimensional. And when she let them go, I was like, oh, okay, there's gonna something's different gonna happen with her. And then it didn't. She let them go, and she kind of remained the same. She was still the bad guy, and I like her motive because she was saying like, this, they discarded me, and I made this my domain, and now they're trying to take it away from me. I'm gonna confront Paradox, take over his machine, and then I'm going to be the god of the multiverse. I like her motive. I just wish it was expanded on a little bit more.
Yeah. And so speaking of that, one of the things I forgot to mention was that Paradox had created a time ripper machine.
Yeah.
And I forget what his original plan for it was.
Well, it was to destroy universes in an instant.
Because rather than letting them slowly
because
when the
anchor being dies, the universe, it takes a couple thousand years for the universe to die. He was like, rather than waiting thousands of years, we just gonna chop it off right there. And that's why he brought on Wade to help him do that. And Wade was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not about to help you kill these universes. Like, it's people in all these universes.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
And then Cassandra's plan is to use the Time Ripper to basically destroy all universes, or
destroy all universes, and there will only be the void.
Right. So once they get out of the, I skipped over Dogpool and Nicepool. So these are the jokes that I kind of thought were stretched a little thin.
I agree.
Dogpool, seeing Dogpool the first time and having Dogpool lick his mouth and everything, funny. Then Dogpool shows up again. I want to say Dogpool shows up like 3 times or something.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I'm wrong. But Dogpool shows up again, and I was like, why are we spending so much time with this dog? and Nicepool was funny the first time.
Yeah.
He shows up again, and I was kind of over it. And then his whole death scene was just one really stretched out joke to me. And,
I agree.
And I saw it coming a mile away when he's just standing there going, you're going to be fine. Say it with me. Say it louder or whatever. And you're like, he's not going to be fine. And his head gets, explodes. So I was like, all right, let's move on. So those are the jokes I'm thinking of in particular that kind of just felt like they were really stretched out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have used less of. And then there's so all of these Deadpools come out of out of the sling ring. And
well, hold on. Before we get to that, we learn what happened between what happened in Wolverine, in the worst Wolverine's world
universe.
Yeah. Basically, I'm thinking it was the events of X2, because he says that the humans came and they killed everybody. So I'm thinking it was a version of X2, and then he went on a rampage and killed not only the bad humans, he went he went berserk and just went on a killing spree and was killing humans left and right, whether they were good or bad. And he has tremendous guilt around that. And that's why he wears the yellow under his clothes, because Scott always wanted him to wear it. Mm-hmm. And it's to remind himself of what he did and to honor the memory of the X-Men, which I thought was very poetic. Yeah,
I like that too. I like that reasoning to bring the suit in rather than just saying in this universe he wears a costume. Yeah, I liked that they, that they worked it into his character that way.
Yeah, and then in his universe, he's like they were all in their uniforms, and I didn't wear it because I didn't want to let them know that I wanted to be there.
Right.
He's like, I was too busy.
How ridiculous they looked and everything.
Yeah, I was too busy being a tough guy, and then while I was out being a tough guy, they all died.
Right.
So I thought that was tragic, but very poetic at the same time.
I agree. I liked his character arc more than Deadpool's even.
It's really like I know it's again we talk about this with multiple movies. We did it with Pirates of the Caribbean. And we referenced Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's Wolverine's movie told from Deadpool's perspective. I love when movies do that. I love when they do it, and this movie does it, and it does it right. It's really Wolverine's movie.
Right. So all the Deadpools show up. How did you feel about that scene?
I liked it. I wanted to love it, but I don't know. I don't quite know why I didn't like it. I mean, I liked it. I did not like it. I don't know why I didn't love it. I don't know what about it bothered me. I think it was the fact. It might have been the fact that it was they had no reason to be against Deadpool other than just to be in the way.
Right. I think that's my issue with it too. I like. There's cameos there. I actually didn't know Cowboy Deadpool is Matthew McConaughey, which I did not realize until I watched the credits. I didn't recognize his voice.
I knew his voice right away. Yeah.
he was kind of doing a voice, I think, which is maybe why I didn't recognize it. Because if it had just been the regular Matthew McConaughey voice or whatever, I can't remember. But if it had been regular, I would have recognized it, but I did not catch it. Lady Deadpool is Blake Lively, which, makes a lot of sense.
Man, the movie came out and people were still trying to guess who it was. I'm like, you clearly heard whose voice it was.
And I don't really know why they're trying to stop Wade and Wolverine either, other than just being an obstacle. And I don't love the way the scene ended. The one moment that I really liked is when Wolverine stands up with the dog and everybody stops shooting because nobody's going to kill the dog. And he's just holding it, like looking at them while he walks across the street. Right. I thought that was fantastic.
But we get the awesome moment when Wolverine finally puts on his mask. How do you feel about the mask?
I really like the mask during the fight scene, but when you see it, like when he first put it on, I didn't quite love it. And then there's a scene where they're just talking. Deadpool and Wolverine are talking down in like the tunnels or whatever. Mm-hmm. It looked off. And I think it's the wide eyes. I think the wide eyes look great with Deadpool because it's a full face covering. But when you can see the bottom half of the face, it just looks odd. And I wish I could have seen a like test footage or something of them doing more of a Batman mask type thing where they put black around his eyes with the mask. I think that would have looked better.
I 100% agree. It gave me I felt what's the word? I guess justified, because people are, when Deadpool came out, people was like, oh, I wish Batman would have the white eyes. I wish more superheroes would have the white eyes. I'm like, that's not gonna work with every character. This movie proves it.
Right.
I like the mask for the most part. I love it in that scene when they're actually fighting.
Yes.
The part where it looks kind of terrible is at the very end of that fight when he busts through the back of the bus and lands, the CGI on the mask looks so wonky. I'm like, that ain't it right there.
Yeah. So when they're in the tunnels and it's just like a over the shoulder shot of both of them. The mask looks weird to me there, and I'm assuming it's the wide eyes. But then it's like there are times where the mask looks awesome, and right after that scene, when Wolverine is about to go into that chamber to be the one to sacrifice himself, it's kind of from the side. It's almost like he's kind of looking over his shoulder, kind of, and we see the mask a little bit from the side. It looked awesome right then.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought it looked incredible, but when you're just straight on having a conversation, it's just like dead eyes. It just looked weird.
He looked dead. But we on the same page with that. So the final, like the very final conflict when they go into that chamber to stop Cassandra Nova from destroying the multiverse. I really like that scene. I love how, Wade goes in there, and I love how he's stalling. He's doing all this silly stuff, and that's really I think people just gonna look at that as a surface level scene, but like what that is, like that's who Deadpool is. Deadpool is definitely the type of person to laugh to keep from crying. Deadpool has a tragic life, and that one scene right there encompasses the tragedy that is Deadpool. He's doing all this silly stuff, stalling, because he is truly afraid to die in this moment. And I just thought it was a nice touch. And I love when, he locks Wolverine out. Wolverine busts in there anyway, and they both are ready to sacrifice themselves. I thought it was beautiful. The only thing that I didn't like was the fact that his whole, like the top of his uniform is disintegrated, but the mask is intact.
Yeah, and the pants.
And the pants. That didn't make sense to me, but whatever. It
was just an excuse to get, which is a funny moment, but it was just an excuse to get that ab shot where like Deadpool's like looking at his abs, and then they stretch that joke too thin by having the TVA folks like staring at Hugh's body while he comes out shirtless.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was obviously just meant for a joke. But yeah, it makes no sense that they would disintegrate the shirt, but only the shirt.
Right.
And not even anything on Deadpool. It's just on Hugh Jackman. Yeah. Or just on Wolverine, I should say. It was just, I guess, an excuse to keep the mask for a little bit longer, too. But I'm glad that we finally got to see the mask. But yeah, I do. And in the fight scene, it looked incredible. But the white eyes, I'm not sure was the way to go.
Yeah. Agreed.
I understand why they did it, because Deadpool's got the white eyes, but I kind of agree with you. It's kind of validation, because I've always thought that too. Like I've seen people, they make masks that there's a lot of people who make Batman masks that you can buy from real high quality masks.
Yeah.
And some of those guys will make them with white eyes.
Yeah.
And I've seen cosplayers with the white eyes, and I've never really thought it looked that good.
I agree.
So I agree. I don't think they should do a Batman with white eyes.
Yeah.
And I think this is proof of that.
I think what they should do, and one of the movies, it might have been the Batman that did it. So like when he has his detective vision, contacts in.
Yeah.
They glow white, so that kind of alludes to the idea of white eyes. I like that.
Yeah, that's cool. The Dark Knight kind of did it too with the sonar vision thing that he has in the final act, but that was like those were kind of big.
Yeah, they were kind of bulbous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then to wrap it up, basically they save the day, and universe is not going to die, and yada yada yada. One of the things I liked was, Hugh Jackman said that he was never going to play Wolverine again after Logan, and they're sitting on that bench, and Deadpool says to Wolverine, "So I'll see you around," and he goes, Probably not. Which I liked. I also liked that throughout the movie, Deadpool kept making references. He was like, Disney's throwing enough money. He's going to play him until he's 90. But I liked how they, he said, probably not. He was like kind of basically saying like, I was going to do one more and this is it.
Yeah. I do like how, he kind of brought him to his universe and, these are my friends. Speaking of friends, How is Shatterstar in this movie? Didn't he die?
Yeah, I wondered the same thing. Like, I get why Peter's there. I get why Vanessa's there. He used the time machine, but we never saw him save Shatterstar. So I don't understand how Shatterstar was there. I thought the exact same thing.
Speaking of Peter, I love Peter. Peter's awesome.
Peter's great. I didn't like how Peter, again, so when Peter first shows up and all the Deadpools are like, we love Peter, because there's, I guess, a Peter in every universe. I was like, okay, that's fine. But then when Peter shows up again to like diffuse a situation, I was like, okay. It was just, it was again, one of those, it was kind of like the dog pool thing. It was just like they kind of reused the joke. So I like Peter, but I like Peter more in the Deadpool 2, I think.
Yeah. I guess that's the movie. We can go to a rating now.
Yeah. Well, real quick, before we go to a rating, we see the little montage in the credits to Good Riddance by Green Day, which is great. But what's the one movie they left out? I was trying to think of it when you were talking about it.
New Mutants.
Oh, yes, they sure did.
They left it. They even showed Fan-4-Stick.
They sure did.
And left New Mutants out. I thought that was funny. Like not funny in like a ha way. I was like, I thought it was just kind of ironic that they thought it was so bad that like, yeah, we're not even going to mention that. They like even X-Men Origins. They showed X-Men Origins, Fan-4-Stick, but they was like New Mutants. Nah, we good on that. That's crazy.
That's funny. I really like that little that stuff at the end. I thought it was really cool, and that really was, I thought, a great finishing touch to the movie. Yeah. And then did you stay through the end credits? And see I did. The thing at the end? Yeah.
And when Deadpool showed the surveillance tape of Johnny actually saying those things that he said about Cassandra, he's like, I told you.
And then it ends with him going, and you can quote me. I thought that was great.
Yeah, for sure.
Ratings. So I walked out of this movie, like I said before, liking it but not loving it. I do think I'm going to like this movie more upon subsequent watches. I have a feeling that once I give it another chance and watch it again, I think I'm going to probably, just kind of like I did with Deadpool 2. We just talked about that recently. I actually kind of was surprised how much I was enjoying that movie the second time around. Not that I didn't like it the first time, but I just think once this movie comes out, I'll buy it on physical. I'll probably rewatch it and I'll probably love it. But this time around, I liked it, but didn't love it. So I'm going to go 4 out of 5. Deadpool heads? What was that? I didn't recognize that Deadpool variant, by the way. The like floating head. Deadpool, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a little bit more than you. Like, and again, it's funny because normally the jokes being stretched out would bother me. I think if it were any other movie, I would be right on board because they do that a few times in, maybe not a few times, but they do it in Multiverse of Madness, and it really bothered me. But I think I was already kind of pissed off because they marketed a dark movie, and it wasn't that dark.
Right.
Yeah. So like with this, again, they gave me exactly the movie that they showed in the trailer. They gave me exactly what I wanted. This is the third Deadpool movie, so I expected it to have those Deadpool isms in it. And it, on the third time around, it didn't, it didn't bother me because again, I expected it. So, they treated the Fox universe with respect, and we celebrated and had fun, and we said goodbye to the Fox universe as we know it. So yeah, I'm gonna give it 4.5 Deadpool katanas. No, actually, no. I'm gonna give it 4.5 Wolverine masks.
There you go. Nice. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we'd love to know what you think of Deadpool and Wolverine. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can comment on our Instagram post at cinemaheroes. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below what you think about the movie. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.